Picture this. You are 12 years old, a boy in a small Bulgarian village in the year 1550. The air smells of damp earth and wood smoke. Morning mist curls low in the valley like an old blanket wrapping the hills, softening every sound except the gentle clinking of sheep bells. That melody has been the background to your entire life. Steady, calm, familiar. Your father walks beside you, guiding the flock with the patience of a man who has known these slopes since his own boyhood. Behind you, in the warm light of the hearth, your mother prepares breakfast. Coarse bread baked at dawn, its crust dark and fragrant, and goat's milk still warm from milking. These are tastes that define your world, tastes that feel eternal. But then, another sound, at first faint, a tremor in the earth you almost dismiss as distant thunder. Then louder, sharper, the pounding rhythm of hooves striking cobblestone. The sound doesn't belong here. Your father freezes mid-step. The color drains from his face until it matches the pale fog around you. Your mother appears at the doorway just as a clay pitcher slips from her hands and shatters on the ground. You don't understand at first, but the air feels heavier, colder, and then the truth hits. Everyone in your village knows exactly what those hoofbeats mean. The Sultan's collectors have come. You dart behind a wooden cart, heart thudding, as a group of Ottoman officials rides into the square. Their horses are draped in embroidered cloth, their riders dressed in silk robes that remain pristine despite the long journey. They carry scrolls tied with ribbon, and their eyes move over the crowd like merchants inspecting livestock. The villagers gather in tense silence. One man dismounts, his boots striking the earth with deliberate weight. He unfurls a scroll and begins reading names, his voice smooth, detached. Then he pauses. His gaze settles on you. He points. It feels like a spear thrust into your chest. Your mother collapses forward, clutching at his robes, pleading in the tongue of your people, a language he makes no effort to understand. Two guards pull her back. Your father stands still, jaw set, hands clenched at his sides. He knows the truth. To resist would mean death for all of you. Hands grip your arms and pull you away. They tell you it is an honor, that you will serve the Sultan, rise to greatness. Their voices are calm, rehearsed, as if this is not the destruction of a childhood, but a blessing. The cart wheels creak into motion. The smell of the village, wood smoke, bread, sheep, fades behind you. All that remains is the sound of your mother's sobs, growing fainter until they are gone. You will never hear them again. This is the beginning of your new life, a palace boy, a ghulām, in the most powerful empire on earth. You do not yet know the meaning of what lies ahead. You cannot imagine the way the marble walls of the Sultan's palace will both shelter and suffocate you. But soon you will, and the horrors inside will make you long for these quiet mornings among sheep and mist. Before your feet even touch the city's stones, you will learn that this is not a journey toward greatness, but an initiation into a machine that feeds on children's bodies and spirits, shaping them into instruments of power. Your first lesson will not be in letters or numbers. It will be in survival. The journey begins before the sun rises, the air still sharp with cold. You are not alone. Dozens of boys, some no older than 8, others nearly grown, are herded together like livestock. You march with your hands bound in front, a rope linking you to the boy ahead. There is no farewell, no ceremony, just the unbroken line of feet in the shadow of armed guards behind you. The road is long, winding through valleys and over mountains, each step pulling you further from everything you know. Days bleed into each other. You eat when the guards decide, scraps of bread hard as stone, a few olives, sometimes nothing. Water comes from streams or muddy puddles, and sleep is snatched wherever the caravan halts, under trees, in ruined barns, or in the open fields with frost forming in your hair. It doesn't take long for the first boys to falter. One stumbles on the third day, coughing so hard he can't stand. The guards don't stop. They cut the rope, leave him by the roadside, and the column moves on. You learn quickly. Weakness is not tolerated. Those who can't keep up are left behind to die. On the fourth night, you meet Nikos. He is older, maybe 14, with sharp eyes that still carry the defiance you lost the moment they took you from your mother. He whispers that he's from a fishing village in Greece, that the salt air was the last thing he smelled before the soldiers came. His voice drops even lower when he tells you his plan. While the camp sleeps, he tries. The moon is full, silver on the grass, and for a moment you think he might make it. But the guards are fast. They drag him back before he's gone a mile. The beating is public, deliberate. Each strike is meant to echo in your mind as much as in his body. Nikos doesn't cry out, but his breathing is ragged, and you can see the dark stain of blood soaking through his tunic. After that, the column marches in silence. You stop speaking to the boy beside you, except when absolutely necessary. You learn to watch the guards without letting them see you watch. You begin to move quietly, to blend into the line. You do not want to be noticed. Weeks pass. The land changes, from pine forest to open plains, from winding rivers to the jagged edges of distant hills. Along the way, you see villages that look like yours but are silent. There are people watching from doorways as you pass. You wonder if they pity you, or if they fear that speaking to you will bring the same fate upon their own children. You begin to understand that survival is not about strength alone. It is about adaptation. You eat when food is offered, even if your stomach is still full. You sleep when you can, no matter how hard the ground. You ignore the cries of those who fall behind because stopping means joining them. By the time the jagged silhouette of Istanbul rises in the distance, you are thinner, harder, quieter. You have learned not to hope for rescue. You have learned that escape is not freedom if it ends with death in a ditch. You have learned to keep your eyes low and your steps steady. And yet, when the sun catches the minarets and the great dome of Hagia Sophia, when you see the massive walls of the city stretching before you, a knot forms in your stomach, not from awe, but from dread. You know instinctively that this city, for all its beauty, is a prison. Its gates will open for you today. They will not slow, almost ceremonial. The guards straighten in their saddles, and even their horses seem to sense the change. The smell of sea air mingles with roasting chestnuts and spices from the street markets. But for you, every scent feels foreign, tinged with the sourness of fear. Istanbul rises around you like a living wall, layers of stone and history pressing down from every side. The minarets pierce the clouds, their slender silhouettes framing the massive dome of Hagia Sophia, which glows gold in the late afternoon sun. Merchants shout in a dozen languages. The air is thick with the calls of gulls and the clatter of cartwheels over cobblestones. It should be magnificent. For pilgrims and traders, this is the beating heart of the empire, the jewel of two continents. But for you, the sight is hollow. The city's beauty only makes the bars of your invisible cage seem finer, more impenetrable. The caravan halts before a broad courtyard lined with arches. A cluster of officials waits, robes immaculate, turbans perfectly folded, faces expressionless. They carry scrolls and ledgers, ready to record the newest arrivals like a shipment of rare goods. You are herded into lines, the sound of boots and sandals scraping on stone. Then comes the selection. It is not quick. They inspect you as if they have all the time in the world. One man grips your chin, tilting your face into the light to study the shape of your eyes, the smoothness of your skin. Another pries your mouth open to check your teeth, nodding when he sees they are even and white. They test your reflexes, dropping a stick for you to catch, tapping your knee with a rod to see the twitch. They ask you to recite any numbers or letters you know, though they already suspect you know very little. There is no warmth in their gaze, no sense that they are looking at a human child. You are a potential investment, an uncut stone to be shaped into something valuable or discarded. One by one, boys are divided into groups. The strongest, broad-shouldered ones are marked for military training, destined to become Janissaries, the Sultan's elite soldiers. Others, less imposing, are assigned to serve in the imperial stables or kitchens. The most intelligent and attractive, those whose bearing suggests obedience and adaptability, the examiner lingers. He studies your eyes a moment longer than the others. His lips curl, not in kindness, but in satisfaction, like a hunter finding the perfect specimen. He writes your name on a separate list, though in truth it will not remain your name for long. Those chosen for the palace are gathered apart. There is no cheering, no celebration. You can see in the eyes of the others that they are relieved not to be in your place, though they will never admit it aloud. As the group of you is led away, you pass beneath a great stone gate. Through it you glimpse a world of marble courtyards, gilded doors, and shadowed passageways. The walls rise high enough to block the view of the city beyond. Once inside, the noise of the streets fades until it is gone. From this moment, the outside world may as well not exist. The palace is a labyrinth. Your first steps inside are onto marble so polished it reflects your face back at you, pale and uncertain. Sunlight filters through latticework windows, casting patterned shadows that shift as the day moves. Gardens bloom in carefully measured order. Cypress trees lined like soldiers, roses pruned into perfect shapes. Even beauty here feels regimented, disciplined, as though no petal is allowed to grow without permission. Servants glide silently across the courtyards, eyes lowered. Guards stand at every turn, their hands resting on the hilts of curved swords. Beyond each doorway lies another chamber, some gilded with gold, others dim and echoing with the hollow sound of footsteps. There is no straight path, no single view that lets you see the palace as a whole. It is a place designed to conceal, to disorient. They take you to the dormitory where you will live. It is long and narrow, lined with rows of beds dressed in silk sheets. At first, the softness beneath your hand feels like a luxury, but the moment you lie down, it feels more like a snare. The air is heavy with the scent of sweat and candle wax. Around you, boys murmur in languages you do not recognize. Greek, Albanian, Armenian, perhaps others. Some whisper prayers, others cry softly into their pillows. No one speaks too loudly. The walls feel as if they can listen. That night, you hold tight to the small wooden cross your mother pressed into your palm when the soldiers took you. It is the only piece of your old life you have left. But in the morning, it is gone, taken by a supervisor during inspection. He does not scold you, merely shakes his head and places a folded piece of cloth in your hand. Inside is a simple string of prayer beads. Your new faith is not a choice, it is an order. The conversion ceremony is staged with grandeur. Robes are laid out for you, freshly washed, smelling faintly of rosewater. You stand before an imam in a room lit by oil lamps, their flames wavering as though reluctant to witness the act. Words are spoken in a language you barely understand, phrases you are told to repeat. They speak as if this is your decision, as if you have walked here by choice, but in your chest the truth is heavy. You are not choosing a new life. It is being laid over you like a mask. When it is done, they give you a new name, Mehmet. Your old name is never spoken again. That night you lie in your bed, staring at the ceiling beams. Somewhere beyond the courtyard, you hear the faint notes of a flute, the measured steps of the night patrol, and the muffled sound of someone weeping. You try to remember your mother's face, the slope of the hills where you used to walk the sheep, but the images blur. You tell yourself you will hold on to these memories, but already they feel as though they are slipping into a place you cannot reach. You do not yet know the deeper truth, that this loss of name, of faith, of home, is only the first layer. Beneath the polished marble and fragrant gardens, there is a hierarchy that will demand far more than obedience. It will demand pieces of yourself you do not yet understand can be taken. It begins subtly, with a smile you don't trust. His name is Amid, though it may not be the name he was born with. He is older, 3 years in the palace, and he wears his confidence like armor. You notice how the teachers greet him with familiarity, how he walks with the ease of someone who knows which corridors are safe and which are traps. One evening, he sits on the edge of your bed without asking. His voice is low, his tone casual, as though you are old friends. "You're new," he says, studying your face. "You don't know how things work here yet, but I can help you, protect you, even teach you how to get ahead." You stay silent, unsure whether to nod or look away. His hand rests lightly on your shoulder, and your muscles tense. It's not a gesture of kindness, it lingers just a moment too long. "The teachers listen to me," he continues. "When I speak well of someone, doors open. When I don't, doors close, And here, closed doors can mean hunger, punishment, worse. His voice drops lower still. Of course, help has a price. There are ways to show gratitude. The air between you feels heavy. You understand what he means even if no one has explained it. The choice before you is no choice at all. Refuse him and risk not only his disfavor, but the sudden, invisible punishments of the palace. Loss of privileges, isolation, beatings arranged to look like accidents. Accept and surrender something you do not fully understand, but know instinctively. In the dining hall, boys glance quickly at certain tables when the older ones arrive. In the training yard, some stand too close to their patrons, their eyes downcast. It is not friendship, not family, but something else, something calculated and dangerous. The rules are never written, but they are everywhere. The palace runs on obedience, but also on desire. To rise, you must be noticed. To be noticed, you must offer something in return. That something is rarely skill with a quill or a sword. As the days pass, you see how the hierarchy coils like a living thing through the corridors. Eunuchs, castrated as boys, now powerful overseers, watch everything with sharp eyes. Some play the role of protectors, but more often they are predators in plain sight. Older students mirror them, passing down the same exploitation they endured. The cycle is seamless, centuries old. That night, you lie awake long after Amit has left, his words clinging to you like the damp in the walls. You understand now that the marble floors and silk sheets are not signs of privilege, but tools, designed to make the gilded cage seem like a gift. You begin to see the palace for what it truly is. Not a school, not a sanctuary, but a marketplace where loyalty, safety, and even survival can be bought. And you, whether you wish it or not, are one of the goods on offer. Over time, the palace reveals itself not as a single predator, but as a colony of them, each feeding in its own way on the boys brought through its gates. The abuse is not the act of a few corrupt men. It is an ecosystem cultivated and sustained across generations. Older students are the first layer. Many came here as frightened children, just like you, but they have learned the unspoken currency of survival. Obedience wrapped in charm, submission offered strategically. Some, like Amit, use the lessons they endured to claim power over newcomers. They do not see themselves as abusers, only as players in a game they cannot afford to lose. Above them stand the eunuchs. Once boys too, they were taken and cut, stripped not only of their origins, but of the ability to father children. Some cling to their authority as a way to reclaim control. They decide who sleeps where, who serves which master, who gets the coveted tasks that lead to advancement. They know the hunger of isolation and the fear of being invisible, and they use that knowledge with precision, sometimes to protect, often to control. And then there are the officials, the men in silk and gold who can reach into the dormitories at will. For them, beauty is a resource as valuable as loyalty or skill with numbers. To be chosen by one of them is to step into a strange twilight of privilege and dependence. Better food, easier lessons, silk in place of wool. These things come at a price. Refuse, and you risk being cast aside, your name quietly erased from the lists of promising pupils. You see it happen around you. Dmitri, taken from a village not far from your own, begins to smile in a way that does not reach his eyes. Within months, he has fine clothes, private tutors, in the favor of a high-ranking scribe. He no longer speaks of home. When new boys arrive, you catch him appraising them with the same cold calculation you once saw in the palace examiners. Then there is Stephanos, a fisherman's son from the Greek coast. He refuses every advance, endures every punishment in silence. He moves through the halls like a shadow, never speaking more than a few words. One morning his bed is empty. No one tells you where he has gone, and no one asks. The most disturbing truth is that this is not hidden. These exchanges, protection for compliance, privilege for obedience, are woven into the fabric of palace life. They are spoken of in hints, in jokes that are not quite jokes. The teachers look away, the guards pretend not to hear, and the palace continues to function as if nothing is amiss. You begin to understand that survival here is not simply about keeping your head down. It is about walking a line so thin it feels like it could cut your feet. Accept enough to avoid destruction, but not so much that you lose the last fragments of yourself. But every day, that line blurs a little more, and the boy you were in the misty hills of your homeland becomes harder to find. The palace day begins before dawn. You are shaken awake by a supervisor's hand, your body still heavy with sleep. The call to prayer fills the dormitory, and you join the line of boys moving through the cold corridors, bare feet whispering against stone. There is no lingering, no pause to greet the morning. Every action is dictated by the schedule. A bowl of lentil soup, bread, sometimes a few dates. Enough to keep you alive, never enough to make you feel full. The hours between are filled with lessons, reading and writing in Ottoman Turkish, Arabic and Persian, mathematics, law and history, calligraphy and music. These are the empire's gifts, they tell you, but the knowledge comes in a cage. There is no freedom to question, no room to remember where you came from. The rules are strict and the punishments imaginative. A boy caught speaking his native language is made to scrub marble floors on his knees for hours, the cold seeping into his bones. One evening you witness Milos, a tall, quiet boy, dragged into the courtyard. They say he was caught praying in the old way, facing the wrong direction. He is stripped naked and made to stand in the open until sunset, while the others are encouraged to jeer. The humiliation is as calculated as the punishment itself. Privacy is a luxury you forget to expect. You bathe in public baths under watchful eyes. Your letters, if you are ever allowed to send them, are read before they leave the palace. Even your sleep is not your own. The creak of a dormitory door in the night is enough to freeze your breath. In time, you stop thinking of the outside world as real. The walls are high, the gates are guarded, and the city beyond is a rumor. You live in a small universe of polished marble, gold leaf, and shadowed corners, where beauty hides cruelty, and every smile could be a test. Within the palace, wealth is not measured in coins, but in privileges. A softer bed, an extra portion of meat, a book from the library, access to the gardens on a summer evening. These things are earned, traded, or taken, and they are worth more here than gold. The system is deliberate. The more you crave these comforts, the more you are willing to give. A perfect recitation in class might earn you a sweet pastry. Helping an older student with his studies could mean fewer chores, and sometimes the price is steeper. A whispered request from a patron, a meeting behind a locked door. You learn quickly which favors are safe to accept and which carry chains you cannot see. You become skilled at offering just enough, a polite smile, a well-timed answer, without binding yourself to promises you cannot keep. But it is a dangerous balance. One wrong refusal, one poorly judged hesitation can close a door forever. Over time, you begin to see the economy for what it is, a network of debts and bargains that ensures no one is ever free. Every kindness is an investment, every reward a reminder that it can be taken away. The palace feeds you, teaches you, clothes you, yet it owns you more completely with each gift it gives. Now and then, the thought of escape surfaces, unbidden. Perhaps it's when you catch sight of the Bosphorus glittering through a courtyard arch, or when a seagull lands on the roof, free to fly wherever it wishes. Boys do try. There was one who climbed the outer wall on a stormy night, hoping the wind would cover the sound of his movements. Another slipped away during a supply delivery. But the most desperate was the swimmer, a boy who dove into the Golden Horn and tried to cross to the other side. He was brought back at dawn, his body blue with cold, his hands torn from the current's pull. The beating that followed was public, each strike a warning to the rest of you. He lived but bent and limping, his spirit broken. Now he serves in the kitchens, never speaking above a whisper. For the few who succeed, freedom is not the salvation they imagined. They emerge into a world where their families may be gone, their villages changed, their names forgotten. The skills they carry are for palace life, not for survival outside it. Many are caught within days. Others drift, rootless, their freedom empty of purpose. And so, most stop dreaming. You tell yourself that staying is safer, even if it means letting the walls close in a little tighter each year. Years pass and you grow taller, your face sharper. You learn languages with ease, navigate court etiquette like a second skin. You can recite poetry in Persian, play the oud well enough to earn nods of approval, and calculate taxes for a province you have never seen. With these skills comes the knowledge that advancement is possible. You might one day become a court secretary, an advisor, perhaps even a governor. But to reach those heights, you must play the game as your elders do, recruiting allies, earning patrons, bending where you must. The most unsettling truth creeps in quietly. Many of the men who now control your fate once slept in these same dormitories. They too were taken from their homes, shaped by the same system. And yet they did not dismantle it. They learned to thrive in it, to resist and be broken, or to climb and become what you once feared. It is a choice you think about often and never aloud. The day of your graduation, Chikma, comes without fanfare. You stand in a line of young men, each dressed in fresh robes, your faces calm but your hearts restless. One by one, names are called and assignments given. Some are sent to provincial courts, others to the Janissary barracks, a few to the Sultan's personal service. The palace has finished with you, but its shadow will follow wherever you go. You step forward when your name is spoken. In that moment, you realize you have been remade, not only in skill, but in thought. You are fluent in the empire's languages, trained in its customs, versed in its politics, and you carry the quiet knowledge of how power is taken, held, and traded. This is your reward and your curse. Among the empire's elite, the palace school is spoken of as a triumph. Court historians call it a forge for loyalty, a crucible for producing the finest servants. Any whispers of cruelty are dismissed as ignorance or foreign slander. The truth, that the same walls that taught law and poetry also housed abuse, is buried under layers of ceremony and pride. Official regulations forbid such acts, yet the system's results are too useful for anyone to look too closely. The empire values order above all. The suffering of boys like you is simply not part of the equation. You cannot deny the education you received was rare, even remarkable. You can converse with scholars from Cairo, calculate trade routes across 3 seas, draft decrees in perfect calligraphy. But every lesson came bound to something else: a compromise, a silence, a wound. The very skills that could free you in another life are here intertwined with the knowledge of what you endured to earn them. Other empires have done the same. The Romans took boys as pages to senators. The Mongols kept foreign hostages in their courts. Medieval Europe raised children in monasteries that doubled as prisons. The Ottoman palace is not unique, but perhaps it is unmatched in how completely it merged education with control. By the 17th and 18th centuries, the system begins to fray. Muskets make the Janissaries less crucial, European diplomacy reshapes the court, and the palace school loses some of its hold. Yet for the thousands who pass through its gates at its height, these changes come too late. They carry their scars into old age, into the homes they build, into the silences they pass to their children. History moves on. The walls remain. Today, the palace is a museum. Tourists walk the same marble corridors you once scrubbed. They admire the gold ceilings, the tiled chambers, the gardens blooming under the same sun. Guides speak of imperial glory, of art and architecture, of enlightened governance. They do not speak of the boys taken from their mothers, of the dormitories where silk sheets felt like chains, of the nights when footsteps in the dark meant fear. But the marble remembers. And if you stand very still, you might hear it, the faint echo of bare feet, the soft murmur of a language no longer spoken here, the breath of a boy staring at the ceiling, trying not to forget the hills of home. Your story is one of thousands, most never written down. But it matters, because behind every empire's splendor lies the cost paid in lives like yours, and some debts deserve never to be forgotten.